A hot slap sounded across the dining hall of the Kent family mansion as it landed on the face of Jack Bolton. Charlotte Kent, his mother-in-law, just slapped him out of anger, much to Jack's embarrassment. "How can you be so useless? We all agreed to donate 10 million each to give Dad his birthday present, and you're saying that you only have 300,000? Ah, 300,000. I swear you are a disgrace to the Kent family." The gift was the legendary eye patch of Odin. It was only recently that it came to light that it had been found, and the asking price was $100 million. Old Master Kent, the grandpa of the Kent family, was a big fan of Norse mythology, and he would love nothing more than to have such a sentimental gift. He had 3 sons, 5 grandsons, and 2 sons-in-law, and they had all agreed to contribute 10 million each to buy him the eye patch before someone else did. But the poorest and most useless son-in-law of the family, Jack Bolton, only had 300,000. Jack hissed and held in his anger as much as he could. "We both know I'm not the most useless one here. At least I own a business. It's just that business is slow at the moment. This is all I have. Maybe someone can lend me the balance and I'll pay up when things are better." Jack defended himself, looking directly in her eyes without fear or shame. It was because 4 years ago, Jack saved Matilda Kent, the grandmother of the Kent family's life, by giving her one of his kidneys when she was almost dying, that she decided to repay him by marrying him to her youngest granddaughter, so he could become a member of her family. Unfortunately for Jack, she died in a plane crash barely 3 months later, and his life became a living hell in the Kent family. Everyone hated, humiliated, and abused him. Everyone except his wife, Bianca. She was the only one that barely tolerated him in the Kent family. They all knew that Jack couldn't afford the 10 million, and honestly, they didn't even need the money from him. It was all just so that they could humiliate and abuse him as always. "Ha ha!" Gerald Kent, the second grandson of the Kent family, burst out laughing when Jack asked for a loan of 9,700,000. He was laughing so hard that his eyes glistened with tears. "Bianca, your husband is indeed a clown. Where does he expect to get the money to pay back? Is it from clearing trash? Why don't you divorce this clown and marry Trent Garner already? This ordinary garbage collector is no match for the young master of the Garner family." The Kent family was a third aristocratic family in Bale City. Their entire combined net worth was about $10 billion, but the Garner family was a second aristocratic family, and their net worth was over $50 billion. Trent Garner was the first and only grandson of the Garner family, so it was safe to say that one day, the entire net worth would be his, whereas Jack Bolton was just a live-in son-in-law of the Kent family who lived in the boys' quarter of the mansion and even had to take a $50,000 loan from his wife, Bianca Kent, to start his business. "Mention that name again here, Gerald, and I swear I will not take it easy with you," Jack replied to Gerald, sneering at him. "Shut up. How dare you threaten a member of this family?" Bruce Kent, Bianca's father and the second son of the Kent family, attacked Jack immediately. Bruce turned his cold gaze on Jack. Not only did he look at Jack like Jack was vermin, he also looked at Jack like he wanted to kill him. In the mind of Bruce, Jack was the only thing standing between him and becoming the in-law of the prestigious Garner family. "You imbecile. I will give you only 24 hours. 24 hours to provide that 10 million, or else you must divorce my daughter." Bruce was so angry that he slammed his fists on the table as Jack didn't flinch at the man's tantrums. He just scoffed. For the past 3 years, they have tried numerous ways to get him to divorce Bianca. Even offered him huge amounts of money, but he turned it all down. In the eyes of Jack, Bianca was the most beautiful woman in the world. Even though the only time she would allow him to touch her was when she herself was in the mood. That was the only time she would move to the BQ to be with him, but after she got her service, she would return to the main mansion and leave Jack all to himself. All the money that Jack made from his garbage clearing business went straight into Bianca's account. The business didn't pay much, but in a good month, he made $80,000 to $100,000. But to Bianca, that wasn't even enough to buy her toiletries every month, but it was because of such gestures and Jack's sexual prowess that she tolerated Jack. It was after Bruce spoke that his wife, Charlotte Kent, added salt to Jack's injury. Even if you give the nincompoop 24 years, he can never have that kind of money. He will never be anything but a wretched pauper. Jack smiled bitterly as he glanced at everyone around the table. The insults had reached the limit to which he could take. He clenched his fists and narrowed his eyes at them before he spoke. I may be a wretched pauper, a nincompoop and an imbecile, but I can proudly say that I work hard for the little I earn. We all know that the rest of you here are just spoiled trust fund babies. Smack! Bruce Kent slapped Jack hard across the face after Jack said those words. Jack flexed his cheek and hardened his face. He thought that although Bruce was a grown man, he slapped like a little girl. How dare you insult us? You this ungrateful human. What do you even know about making money? If I want your little trash business to disappear this minute, I can do it with a snap of my fingers. Bruce Kent raised his voice and scolded Jack. That was the second time in a few minutes that both his in-laws had slapped him. Jack wanted to lash out at them, but then he saw the pleading look on his wife's face and it quenched his anger. I didn't mean to offend you, but it's just that no matter what I do or how hard I try, you people will never accept me as a member of this family. Even when I bring business ideas to you so you can invest and help me make good money like you people, you turn me down and then you ridicule my hard work as if I'm not trying my best. Jack was fed up. This family always gave him a bad time. No matter what he did. They only saw him as the garbage collector boy who got lucky and married into their family. Oh, just shut up, Jack. What stupid business idea could an illiterate like you possibly have that can generate millions? Do you even have a college degree? Marcus Kent, the first grandson of the family, fired at him, flaring his nose. He felt like Jack was taking them off topic. The fact remained that Jack was poor and could not afford the 10 million. Forget about a college degree, Marcus. Ask him if he has even seen the four walls of a college. Gerald mocked Jack even more. That's enough. Jack, let us leave this house for now. I will borrow you the money. You can pay me back in installments. Bianca said to defend Jack again, and she stood up to pull him away when Charlotte, her mother, got angry and pulled Bianca from Jack's hold. Open your eyes and see, Bianca. This man is not the best for you. He is wretched and poor, and soon he will infect you with his wretchedness. Oh, my beautiful daughter, you should divorce him already. Bianca turned her gaze to her mother sharply and frowned. If Jack and I want a divorce, it will be a mutual agreement between us. As for Grandpa's gift, I will pay for him this time. Such a useless man. His wife is defending him, and he cannot even stand up for himself. What a spineless bastard. He is more than useless. He is a waste of sperm. His father should have pulled out. Bruce, Marcus, and Gerald all took their various turns at abusing Jack the more, but Jack remained silent. He knew that if he opened his mouth to say something, he would only aggravate the situation, and he was trying hard to suppress his anger as he listened to them hurl insult after insult at him. All because he wasn't as rich as they were. It was this reason that made him take Bianca's offer to leave the house before he did something he would regret. As soon as Bianca and Jack were about to leave, a deep cold voice echoed across the dining hall. The voice belonged to no one but the old master of the Kent family himself, Barry Kent. What is going on here? His voice alone made everyone in the room tense. In the Kent family, the words of Barry Kent were law, and no one dared to defile him except they wanted to be cut off from the family will. Grandpa. It was Marcus who first spoke, rushing to Barry's side and pulling his seat for him to sit at the head of the table. We all agreed to contribute 10 million each for your birthday gift, but Jack here says he only has 300,000. Can you believe it, Grandpa? 300,000 out of 10 million. Barry Kent narrowed his eyes at Jack. Is this true, Jack? But before Jack could answer, Gerald cut in. It is true, Grandpa. What competent son or son-in-law of this family doesn't have 10 million or more at their disposal? Ah, he is so useless. Barry Kent wasn't pleased with Gerald's uncouth behavior. He only wanted people to speak when he spoke to them, so he dealt with Gerald. In that case, Gerald, as one of the competent sons of this family, you will pay the 10 million for Jack. His words carried a tone of finality, and no one dared refute or argue with him. To dispute the order of Barry Kent was to sign your death warrant. Gerald swallowed air down his throat and clenched his fists. Yes, Grandpa, he answered. In his mind, he wanted to slap that imbecile, Jack. After Barry's order, everyone went silent. No one knew where the axe would land next, and no one wanted it to land on them. It was Bianca who finally broke the silence. "Excuse me, Grandpa. Jack and I have to go to the mall. Regarding what you discussed with me earlier." She curtsied as she spoke. "Definitely, definitely. Remember to do exactly what I told you," Barry reminded Bianca, and she left with Jack. When they got outside, Jack felt sorry for himself and he was grateful for how Bianca defended him. "Thank you for defending me in there. I wasn't expecting it," he said truthfully. It was the first time she defended him directly from her family. Previous times, even if she didn't join them, she never said anything. "It's okay. You are my husband. We should stand up for each other," she replied and hugged him out of nowhere. Jack was so elated from her hug that he smiled like a little boy who was getting his first kiss from his crush. Even though they were just outside the mansion, it was the first time she would show him any form of public affection. He was so distracted by her succulent breasts that were pressed against him and the sweet, mesmerizing smell of her fragrance that filled his nostrils, that he didn't notice when she slipped a white powdery substance in a small sachet into his pocket. Barely 5 minutes into their drive to the mall, Jack noticed a cop car with sirens on, flashing headlights at him, and it was a signal for him to pull over. He slowed down the car and pulled over to the side of the road. "Good evening, officer. Is there any problem?" Jack asked, propping his head outside the window a bit and smiling at the officer. "License, registration, and ID, please," the officer replied coldly. Jack retrieved the said documents and handed them to him. He drummed with his fingers on the steering wheel as he watched the officer glance through them. Suddenly the officer stepped back and pulled his gun out. "Kindly step out of the car, sir," slowly. "Why? Is something wrong, officer?" Bianca asked from the back of the car where she was sitting. The cop ignored her and fixed his gaze on Jack, who was already coming out of the car. Jack thought he had nothing to fear. He wasn't doing anything illegal and he had no criminal involvements. "Turn around slowly and put your hands on the car. Please don't make any sudden movements. I'm going to search you and then I'm going to search your car." This time Jack was agitated. "Search me and my car? What for? Why would you just stop me and want to search me and my car? My wife and I were just going to the mall. This is totally uncalled for. Please do not teach me how to do my job, sir. Do as I have said willingly or I would have no choice but to use force," the cop replied sternly. Jack didn't want any trouble and he had nothing to fear, so he complied. The officer began to search Jack and Jack's eyes widened when he saw the officer remove his hand from his trousers pocket with a white substance in a small bag. "What is that?" Jack blurted out in surprise and irritation. "I should be the one asking you, mister," the cop said as he used a hand signal to call his partner who was standing by their van. "Stay right there," he said to Jack as he handed the bag to his colleague. His colleague took a whiff of the substance and then dipped his finger inside it before touching his tongue with it. He screamed, "It's cocaine. This man is a drug dealer. Arrest him." "What? That's impossible. You set me up, you put that in my pocket." "You set me up," Jack cried out, turning to face the cop, but he didn't expect what happened next. The first cop hit him in the face with his gun, instantly tearing the corner of his eye, and blood started to gush forth. Jack grunted as the man kicked his knees, but he stood firm, refusing to fall. "Why are you hitting me? This is illegal. I haven't even been proven guilty. You are a crooked cop." Jack challenged the police officer still, and wham! Jack got another blow to his face with the gun, and this time he fell to his knee, spitting out the blood that filled his mouth from the gun connecting with his chin. The officer wasted no time in throwing Jack's hand behind him and cuffing him. "You bloody criminal, you dare call me a crooked cop? I will show you what we do to criminals like you." While all this was going on, Bianca remained inside the car, giggling at the sight of Jack's plight. Her grandfather had promised to make her the next heir of the Kent family by giving her the lion's share of his inheritance if she divorced Jack and married Luke Garner. Bianca knew how much Jack loved her. She knew he would never sign a divorce with her, even if she outrightly told him to do so. Jack would refuse and believe that it was her family who was putting her under pressure to do so. So she and her grandfather came up with a crazy idea to get Jack out of their lives once and forever. She rushed out of the car as they led Jack to the boot of the car to search it. Before now, Bianca had kept a duffel bag containing the same hard substance in there. "Officer, please." She went on her knees and clutched the man's leg, faking her tears. "I know my husband. He is a responsible citizen. He would never do a thing like this. Please, this is a misunderstanding." Jack couldn't believe that his beautiful and sophisticated wife was the one on her knees, crying and begging on his behalf. He was beyond dumbfounded, and his heart was full of many emotions. He thought he had finally won her over after all these years, and she was finally showing her love for him. Jack felt so angry at the police officer that he believed had set him up. He struggled with the man. "Let me go. Let me go. I am innocent. You are making my precious wife kneel for something I didn't do. This is wrong, so wrong." The officer responded by giving a hard slap to the back of Jack's head. "Shut up. You are a drug dealer and I will prove it." "Madam, please stand up. This criminal is not worthy of a precious woman like you. He is a nuisance and a menace to our society. Open this boot." He instructed his colleague as Bianca stood up to her feet and crossed her arms against her chest before she winked at the police officer with a smirk on her face. The police officer understood and winked back at her with a smirk of his own planted on his face. Jack couldn't see it, because his eyes were trained on the boot of his car while the first cop held him tightly on his knees. When the cop opened the boot, Jack had some other items in there, but he went straight for the duffel bag containing the cocaine. After all, he was the one who gave it to Bianca and her grandfather. The cop grabbed the bag and threw it in front of Jack before zipping it open. Jack's eyes almost popped out of his socket when he saw the bag full of cocaine that had just been brought out of his boot. His heart sprinted as realization hit him. He had been set up. He had never seen that bag in his life before. "This bag is not mine. I have never seen this bag in my life before. Someone is trying to set me up. That bag doesn't belong to me." Jack cried out bitterly, screaming at the top of his voice. "Shut up, you bloody drug dealer." The second cop spat out hot at Jack. "How could you, Jack? How could you bring such disgrace to me and my family?" Bianca asked in a harsh tone. Her eyes narrowed at him and her expression hardened. "Believe me, Bianca," Jack replied, almost in tears. "These drugs are not mine. Someone is trying to set me up." "Shut up, Jack. Just shut up. They found drugs in your pocket and a bag full of it in your bag, and you dare to lie to me?" Bianca blew hot, looking really disappointed at Jack. Jack shook his head and felt ashamed of himself. Just when Bianca was starting to show her love for him, he had disappointed her. He knew he was innocent, but he had no evidence or alibi to prove it. No matter what he said, no one would believe him. Bianca was right. They did find drugs on him and in his car. "It's not my bag, my love. Believe me, I have never used or sold drugs in my life," he muttered weakly, raising his blood-covered face to look at Bianca, but she had no pity for him and continued to berate him. "You disgust me right now, Jack. Drugs? Really? Is it because of the money? Despite the way my family insults you for your poverty-stricken wretchedness, I stand by you." Bianca faked her tears and cried even more again. "Is this how you wanted to pay for the $10 million loan? But I said I was going to give you the money. Grandpa even asked Gerald to pay it for you. If my family heard this, I will be ruined. You have doomed me, Jack." Bianca cried harder, like it was real. Jack felt heartbroken, and it hurt him deeply to see how much this misunderstanding was hurting her. He desperately wanted to console her and tell her it was a lie, but she wouldn't believe him. "Madam, you deserve better than this criminal," the second cop said. "Move it, you asshole." The first cop forced Jack to his feet and led him towards their van. "I didn't do this, Bianca. I didn't do this, believe me," Jack protested as they led him away. As they forced Jack into their van, Bianca wiped her fake tears and muttered, "Good riddance," before she got into Jack's car and turned the car around to inform her family of the good news. Jack thought he was just going to be interrogated and charged to court when he got to the police station, but nothing prepared him for what he was about to go through. As soon as they got to the police station, he was taken to a private cell and they stripped him completely naked, and he was tied hands and feet to a chair. The corrupt police officers gagged him and put a bag over his head before they started beating him mercilessly. They beat him so hard and hit him all over his body till Jack fell unconscious. It was only then they removed the bag from his head and revived him before leaving him alone in the dark and cold cell. The next day, Jack suffered the same horrible fate, and this time, they deliberately did not cover his face and they targeted his eyes until it was swollen shut and he could barely see anything. Again, it was only when he passed out that they let him go. Jack was all alone, beaten, broken and half dead in that tiny cold cell for 3 whole days. He wasn't given any food to eat. His naked body was exposed to the cold and his bones hurt. Rats would come at night to nibble at his toes. The rats tortured him at night while the cops tortured him by day. Life became hell for Jack. He just wanted to die. He didn't understand why he wasn't being charged to court, why he was being given this inhumane and cruel treatment. He suspected there was something else at play. This was not ordinary. This was not the due process. "Wake up, asshole!" Jack heard the voice of one of the cops faintly as he felt water splash on him. "Today is your lucky day. The Kent family are paying for your bail. They don't want your crimes soiling their family name." For the first time since Jack knew the Kent family, he felt truly grateful to them. Even if they were doing it for their selfish interest, he was genuinely grateful in his heart that they were saving him from the dehumanization he had been subjected to for the past 3 days. When they untied him from the chair, Jack couldn't see anything. Both his eyes were still swollen. He couldn't even stand on his feet and dress himself. After roughly dressing Jack up and dragging him to an office, the officer asked him to sign his bail papers and leave. Sign your bail and get out." Jack weakly stretched his hand to the left, but the pen was on the right. "Idiot!" The cop cussed him out. The cop held Jack's hand himself and guided Jack to where he should sign. Jack didn't even see what he was signing. He just knew he signed 8 times on 4 documents. "Get out. If you like, keep dealing drugs. Next time I catch you, you won't survive it." The cop snarled as he and his colleague tossed Jack out of the building. Jack mustered whatever strength that he had left and stood up to his feet, but before he even took 5 steps, he collapsed and passed out. Just then, a Bentley truck screeched and parked in front of the police station. A posh, elegant and sophisticated young lady stepped out with her bodyguard. "Quick, get him in the car," she ordered.